Hi, hey, hello. My name is Ryan Godoy and I make scary movies and then I, talk about it on YouTube apparently. Today is going to be a continuation of my last making of video. And now we're getting into pre-production. The first video was writing, now we're getting into pre-production. So if you haven't seen the first video, maybe go watch it after this video. Everything should still make sense. Where we left off in our last video, I had a shooting date scheduled. I had a location locked and I had a director of photography who was set and ready to go. So in my mind, that was all the minimum requirements needed for me to move on to the next step and fully dive headfirst into pre-production on every night I see them. Now, pre-production means that I have to gather everything, meaning cast, crew, props, wardrobe, and all the other things in between. Throughout the 2 months that I kind of spent in pre-production, all those things are all mixed together, but I'm gonna break it into some hopefully easier to comprehend sections, starting first with the crew. Gathering the crew was probably the easiest part of the entire process because all I had to do was call up my friends who I knew were talented and that I trusted and ask them if they would be a part of the short film. And in every case, they said yes. And so that can be kind of a frustrating part if you were watching this video hoping to get some advice on how to have a crew for your movie, and I'm just saying call your friends. What if you don't have friends in that situation? I know I've been there where in the past I've listened to podcasts and watched YouTube videos and the advice is always the same, or the stories are always the same on these low budget shorts or these low budget features. The people call up their friends and close contacts. And what if you don't have those? Where do people get these friends? I know it works differently for everybody, but I'm gonna give you 3 pieces of advice that I think could help lead to some filmmaking connections if that's what you're after. The first piece of advice would be keep making movies for a long time. Share those films online or at festivals or in person with people and just keep building that credibility. That way, when opportunity knocks to actually make a connection with another filmmaker, you don't look like a scrub who has been waiting around for someone to come get them. You're somebody that's been taking action yourself. So really just keep making movies. Patience and repetition. Do it over and over again for a long time. Number 2 would be get within physical proximity of other like-minded creators, other people that want to make movies or be part of the film industry. And that can happen through film school, that can happen at film festivals, that can happen through meetups. And I think the most common one that leads to some long-lasting connections is working on sets with other people, because you're just all day working with people, going through hardships and going through tricky situations, and you can build some relationships really quick, and these people can become your friends even outside of the film industry. I honestly think that if I had skipped my college education and just worked on sets in LA for a couple years, I'd be a little further in my career right now, but it didn't happen. But now that I've been on a couple sets since then and after college, I see that is where a lot of long-lasting film connections are made. If due to your location in the world or in the country, you are just not around other filmmakers, then do your best to get around other filmmakers online, in different groups, in different Facebook groups, I don't know, Instagram. Build your connection somehow online. And I think that can go a long way now, where those possibilities weren't around 20 years ago. Now it's totally possible. And all of these steps are important, but I'd say number 3, if you don't have number 3, number 1 and 2, they might not do anything for you. Number 3 is be kind, be hardworking, treat other people the way you want to be treated. Be somebody that somebody else would want to work with. Just be nice to people, because at the end of the day, I believe that the person that's kind and hardworking is going to get called up more than the absurdly talented person that is just not nice and kind of like a piece of garbage. People don't want to work with him. So at the end of the day, be nice, and I think the relationships are just going to happen naturally, whether you're, trying to make them happen and following tips or not. They're just gonna happen. If you keep making movies and you keep being around people that have a similar mindset and you're nice, these relationships are just gonna happen organically, and you're not gonna have to follow steps and feel like weird about it. So those are just some pieces of advice that I think could help people looking for connections. Those are the kind of things that happen over a long period of time, and they kind of just happen. That I don't think they should like be 5 quick tips to make connections, because then it's gonna be like super business and transactional and not be like, I don't know, a real relationship. And really, I'm not the most experienced guy. I'm still going through this. I'm still kind of at the beginning of my filmmaking journey. That's just some stuff that I think would help others. But now back to me gathering the crew for Every Night I See Them. There were 3 positions that were very important to me, and I knew that if I had these 3 roles covered, I felt like we could make Every Night I See Them the best that it could be. And those 3 roles are the director of photography, the sound mixer / boom op, and the set designer. And in this case, the set designer doubled as the makeup artist, which really worked out. For the director of photography, I already had Paul locked and loaded. He was ready to go. I met Paul while working on Danny Donahue's short film, Beast of Prey. He was awesome on that set, really got along, really enjoyed working with him, and I couldn't wait for him to come be the director of photography on Every Night I See Them. For sound, I hit up my friend Nico. Nico, I met him while working on multiple sets on different Crypt TV shorts. And I really enjoyed hanging out with Nico, and I knew his work ethic and how he worked, so he was the first guy I called up when it came to sound. When I called him up, he was down to be a part of it, but the date actually conflicted with another film he was working on. So I ended up pushing my film back 2 weeks to accommodate, and it was actually the biggest blessing in disguise. I really needed those extra 2 weeks, so thank you, Nico. For set designer, I reached out to my friend Danny, who I'd worked with on my Hooked short Behind the Curtain, and she was more than willing to be a part of the project, and I just really enjoyed working with her on Behind the Curtain. Super pumped that she came back. And in this role, she actually doubled as set designer and makeup artist, which was very necessary for this short film. And once all these 3 people were confirmed and ready to go, I felt way more confident in the short film. They weren't the only crew on set. I also had Cade, who co-wrote the short with me, but he came down and he was on set as pretty much a production assistant / script supervisor, which was super helpful throughout the whole day. Having just somebody that can kind of fill in any role at any time is extremely helpful. My friend and fellow horror filmmaker Jordan also came down to set, and he was the behind the scenes videographer for the day. But actually, he really went above and beyond that role. He knew his way around a set, and he was able to help out in a ton of different ways, set up lights, carry things. And honestly, it was a long day already, but if he hadn't been there, I think the day would have been a lot longer. And then for the last piece of crew, I had my friend Ben come on set for a couple hours just to snap some behind the scenes photos. Now let's get into the budget of the short film. Kind of. Now I'm not really gonna go into the exact budget of this short film, because the budget of short films can vary from where you live to when you shoot them to all sorts of different factors. So I don't think the exact budget is going to help you. But really, I just don't want to expose anybody's day rates or what they're willing to work for, because that changes from gig to gig. At least it does for me when I do freelance work. It really does change gig to gig and who you're working for at the time, what you need at the time. And I don't want anybody thinking, oh, he'll work for this much or he'll work for less than this, whatever. We're not going to go into that. But I will give you some vague details that should give you an idea of the budget. Kind of. I'm gonna break it down in a very general way that doesn't really expose anybody. Getting the cast and crew, so this is the actors and the crew on set, cost about 4/10 of my entire short film budget. On-set expenses like wardrobe, props, craft services, lunch, makeup, all that stuff cost about 1.5/10 of the budget. And post-production, which in this case, the post-production I paid for was sound and music, cost about 5/10 of the budget, 1/2. All in all, that leaves us, if you do the math correctly, and I think I have, is 10.5 out of 10. I don't know if I'm saying that right. 10.5 tenths? 10.5 out of 10. All I'm saying is I went over budget. So I didn't have investors for this short film. I didn't have YouTube ad revenue propping up the budget. It all came out of my own pocket. And at the end of the day, it was super worth it. Instead of putting that money towards film school or some other kind of online course, I put it directly into a short film where now I have an end product and I have a successful short on YouTube and I have something for my reel and I learned a ton, and all this knowledge I can take forward with me into my next filmmaking endeavor. So that's gonna be the end of this part of pre-production. The next episode, if you will, is going to be about casting. How I cast the film. I cast 4 actors in this film that I did not know personally. These were not connections I had, and I'm going to go over how I did it and how it worked out. So if you want to be notified of when that video comes out, go ahead and think about clicking that subscribe button. And if you want to be notified of my next short horror film and when that comes out, also click subscribe. And that's all the information I have for you until the next video comes out, which who knows when that'll be, because apparently I don't follow any kind of schedule. It just happens randomly. But that's why you got to subscribe. You can't rely on me releasing next week because it's probably not going to happen. I'm on vacation next week. I'm not going to even be here. I'm going to be chilling. So